The world ended not with thunder, but with silence. I felt warmth, not from fire, but from blood, her blood, seeping into my shirt, spreading like dark wings across the fabric. Eliza, my name is not Thomas, though that is what the papers say. My name is Kiona, which means brown hills in the language of my people. But in her mouth, I became Thomas. And now she was dying in my arms. "Don't you dare leave me," I shouted in broken English, the words tearing from my throat like stones. "You saved me. Let me save you." Her eyes opened, unfocused, searching for mine in the darkness. Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "You already did." Blood, snow, silence. How did we come to this? 3 months earlier, I did not plan to die, but I also did not plan to live. Montana snow in the winter of 1883 does not fall like it does in Arizona. It does not drift gently or dance in the wind. It falls like a verdict, thick and heavy, burying everything too weak to resist. I lay in the drifts, a wound in my side bleeding slow and steady, not from soldiers, not from hunters, from my own hand. 2 days before, I had tried to end it with my father's ceremonial knife, but I had been a warrior too long. My body twisted away from the fatal strike by instinct. The cut was deep, but not deep enough to kill quickly. So I walked into the pines to let Montana finish what I could not. To let the cold kill Kiona Whitefeather, the man who took the life of an innocent child. 3 weeks earlier, I was not the one lying in snow. I was the one holding the rifle. Our group, 7 Chiricahua warriors, raided an army supply wagon near the border. Not for war. The war had been dead for years. We came for revenge. They burned our village the month before. 23 people died, including the chief's granddaughter, only 6 years old. The army called it mistaken intelligence, as if those 2 words could bury the ashes. The moon that night was bright, merciless. I saw a figure running from the wagon, small and clumsy. Warrior reflex took over. I aimed. I fired. A scream, not a war cry, a child's cry of pain. I ran to him. A boy, maybe 11 or 12, lying in the snow. He wore an old green wool sweater, patched cloth pants. Not a soldier, just a child. My arrow was buried in his shoulder, blood flowing fast. His eyes found mine. No hate, no fear, only surprise, as if asking why. I lifted him, tore cloth from my own shirt to bind the wound. My group shouted from the trees, "Kiona, leave him! The soldiers are coming!" But I could not. I placed him inside the wagon, hiding him behind sacks of grain. I whispered in my broken English, "Hide. Don't move. Someone will find you." He grabbed my hand, his lips trembling. "Are you an angel?" Before I could answer, gunfire erupted. I had to run. I left him there. I thought someone would find him. I thought he would live. Until 2 weeks later, I heard the news. A 12-year-old boy died from infection after an Apache raid. His name was Samuel Hartwell. I killed him. Not directly, but I shot him. The arrow came from my bow, from my hand, from my choice. Now, lying in the snow, the irony cut deeper than any blade. I saved the boy, but he died anyway. And now I was dying in the same place, Montana, in snow, from a wound I gave myself. Do the spirits exist? If they do, they must be laughing. "Someone is here." A voice, female. Not Apache, not military, a civilian. I forced my eyes open. A woman stood above me, brown hair tied low, wrapped in a heavy coat, an axe in her hands. She looked down at me. No scream, no running, just stillness, her eyes cold as the ice around us. "Apache," she said. Not a question, a statement. I nodded weakly. She looked at the wound, looked at my face, then set the axe down in the snow. "My name is Eliza Hartwell. You are on my land." Hartwell, that name. Samuel Hartwell, her son. I closed my eyes. This was not irony. This was justice. I killed her son. And now she found me. "Leave me," I whispered in English. "Let me die." Eliza knelt in the snow, her face close to mine. Her eyes held no pity, No anger. Only something I could not name. Determination. "I don't leave people to die," she said. "Not anymore." She pulled me upright, her strength surprising. I was too weak to resist. Tears fell, not from pain but from shame. I did not deserve saving. Not by her. I woke beside a fire. The wound had been cleaned and bandaged with care. A bowl of soup sat nearby, still warm. Eliza sat at the table across the room, mending a shirt, not looking at me. The cabin was small, tidy, but empty in a way that went beyond space. Like something large had been removed, leaving a hole no one could fill. One door remained always closed. I did not ask about it, but that first night I heard her crying behind it. 3 days passed before she spoke more than necessary. She pushed the bread toward me. "Bread." I repeated it. "Bread." She nodded, slid the water closer. I pointed. "Water?" A small smile touched her lips, the first I had seen. Water. And so we began. Not with stories, but with words, one at a time, one gesture at a time. I taught her the word shiye, son. She stopped, repeated it slowly. Shiye. Then she turned away. I knew I had touched something broken inside her. One afternoon I saw her open that closed door. Inside was a small bed, wooden toys, and children's clothing hanging on the wall, a green wool sweater. My heart stopped. She stood in the doorway holding the sweater, crying silently. I stepped back, holding my breath, not daring to intrude. That night she spoke, not to me, to herself. Samuel was 12. He wanted to see the horses at the fort. I said no. He went anyway. Apache raiders attacked the wagon train. He was shot. They brought him back alive, but he died 3 days later. Fever. Infection. In my arms. Calling for his father, a man who left us years ago chasing gold in California. She paused, tears falling freely now. Every word was a knife in my chest. The boy did not die from the arrow. He died from infection. But if I had not shot him, if I had not been there at all, he would still be alive. The next morning, someone knocked at the door. Eliza hid me in the cellar beneath the floorboards. I heard a man's voice, deep and formal. "Morning, Mrs. Hartwell. Just checking in. Any strangers around lately? We have reports of Apache tracks near the ridge." Eliza answered calmly. "No, Sheriff Kane. Just me and the goats." "You sure? The town is forming a hunting party. Can't be too careful. I appreciate your concern, Sheriff, but I'm fine." After he left, she opened the cellar door. I looked at her. "Why do you protect me?" She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "Because Samuel would have wanted me to. He always believed people were more than their worst moments." I wanted to scream. I am the one who created his worst moment. But I could not. I closed my eyes and turned away. That night, unable to sleep, I moved quietly to her table. A small leather journal lay there, worn at the edges. I opened it carefully. A child's handwriting. Samuel's. The last page read, December 3rd, 1883. "I saw an Indian today. He wasn't scary. He saved me. Put me in the wagon. Said hide. I think he was an angel. I drew his face so I won't forget." Below the words was a crude drawing. My face. My hands shook. The journal fell to the floor. Eliza stood in the doorway, watching me. "You found it," she said, her voice flat. I knelt, picking up the journal with trembling hands. I held it out to her. "I'm sorry," I whispered. She took the journal, looking into my eyes. "For what? Reading his diary? Or for being the last person he saw before he died?" I could not answer, because she already knew. "You knew," I said, "from the beginning." Eliza set the journal down on the table, not looking at me. "I suspected. When I found you, you had a piece of cloth in your pocket. Blue, same color as Samuel's shirt." She turned, her eyes red. "But I didn't know for sure until I read his diary again. He wrote about you. The angel who saved him." "I'm not an angel," I said, my voice shaking. "I shot him. I'm the reason he is dead." Eliza stepped closer. The slap came so hard it knocked me sideways. Before I could recover, she hit me again, and again. Her fists struck my chest, my shoulders, anywhere she could reach. You! The word tore from her throat like a wounded animal. You were there. You shot my baby. I did not raise my arms to defend myself. I stood there and took every blow. I deserved this. I deserved worse. He was 12, she screamed, her voice breaking. 12 years old, he just wanted to see the horses, and you killed him. Her fists kept coming, weaker now, her strength failing. Why didn't you tell me? When I was saving you, when I was feeding you, when I was... She couldn't finish. The sobs took over, shaking her entire body. She collapsed against my chest, no longer hitting, just pressing her forehead against me and weeping. Not gentle tears. These were the sounds of something inside her tearing apart. I stood frozen, my arms at my sides, not daring to touch her. I trusted you, she whispered between sobs. I let you into my home, into my life. I was starting to... She pulled back violently, stumbling away from me. Get out. Eliza, get out. Her voice was raw. I can't look at you. I can't breathe with you in this room. Get out, now. I took a step toward her. Please, let me. She grabbed the water pitcher from the table and hurled it. It shattered against the wall beside my head. I said, get out. I left. The cold hit me like a wall, but I barely felt it. I walked to the barn and sat in the hay, staring at nothing. What had I expected? Forgiveness? Understanding? I killed her son and then let her care for me, cook for me, teach me. I let her start to care about me without telling her the truth. I was a coward. 3 days passed. I slept in the barn, worked outside from dawn until exhaustion forced me to stop. I brought water to the door each morning but never knocked. The bucket would be empty by evening. She was alive. That was enough. On the 4th morning, the cabin door opened. Eliza stood there wrapped in a shawl, her face pale and drawn. She looked like she had not slept. Come inside, she said quietly. We need to talk. I hesitated. Thomas. She used my name, not coldly, but not warmly either. Come inside before you freeze to death. I'm not ready to have another death on my conscience. I followed her in. The cabin was warm, but felt different. Heavier somehow. The journal lay open on the table, Samuel's childish drawing of my face visible. Eliza sat down heavily. I've been reading his diary, over and over, every page. I remained standing, uncertain. He wrote about you for 3 pages, she continued, her voice hollow, about the Indian who saved him, how gentle you were, how you whispered to him in a language he didn't understand but somehow knew meant, be safe, how you risked your life to hide him. She looked up at me, her eyes red and swollen. He thought you were an angel sent by God. I wasn't. No, you were a man who made a terrible mistake and then tried to fix it. She took a shaking breath. The doctor told me Samuel's wound wasn't fatal. The arrow missed everything vital. He said if I'd brought Samuel to him immediately, he would have lived. Her voice broke again. But I didn't. I kept him home. I prayed. I used folk remedies. I waited 3 days before I finally took him to town, and by then the infection was too deep. You didn't kill Samuel, Thomas. We both did. Your arrow started it. My pride finished it. That doesn't make what I did forgivable. No, she agreed. It doesn't. And I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I even want to. She stood up, moving to the window, looking out at the snow. But I know Samuel would want me to try. He wrote it in his last entry, the night before he died. If the angel is still out there, I hope someone is kind to him. He looked so sad. She turned to face me. My son, dying, in pain, thought about whether you were all right. That's who he was. That's the boy you shot. The words cut deeper than any blade. So here's what's going to happen, Eliza said, her voice gaining strength. You're going to stay, not because I forgive you, but because running away from guilt is what cowards do. And Samuel didn't die so his killer could be a coward. You're going to live with what you did, every single day. And you're going to make it mean something. You're going to build something good. You're going to help people. You're going to become the angel my son thought you were. She stepped closer. And maybe, someday, I'll be able to look at you without seeing his blood. Maybe someday I'll remember that you tried to save him and not just that you shot him. But today is not that day. I nodded, unable to speak. Now get cleaned up, she said, turning back to the stove. You smell like a barn, and we have work to do. It was not forgiveness, but it was not hatred either. It was something in between. something fragile and painful and real. And for now, that was enough. The doctor said if I had brought him sooner, he might have lived. But I waited, I prayed, I thought God would heal him, and he didn't. She looked up at me, tears streaming. So don't you dare take all the blame. This blood is on both our hands. 2 days later, another man came. This time, Eliza did not hide me. Mrs. Hartwell, the man said, I'm Deputy Marcus Morrison. He looked at me, his eyes not hostile, only recognizing. Apache? He asked. I nodded. Morrison turned to Eliza. You're harboring a fugitive. Eliza stood firm. He's my guest. Morrison looked at me for a long time, then he spoke in Apache, the words clear and correct. Dagoti Shah? I was stunned. A white man speaking Apache, and speaking it well. I answered in our language. Dagoti. Morrison smiled sadly. I thought so. You have mother's eyes. The world spun. Dadi, brother? Yes, Kiona, it's me. Hastian. Hastian, my oldest brother, the one who vanished 20 years ago. Morrison pulled me outside, away from Eliza. I left the tribe when I was 18, he said quietly. I fell in love with a white woman. Nashe. Nashe, the Apache name for a girl whose mother was white. We ran away together, got married, had a son. But she died giving birth to our second child. The baby too. I was left alone with my boy. He paused, pain crossing his face. I changed my name, became white, so my son could have a future without the hatred I faced. He looked at me, but I never forgot who I was. And when I saw you, I knew immediately. Why didn't you come back? I asked, anger and grief mixing in my voice. Because there was nothing to come back to. The tribe thought I betrayed them, and the whites would never fully accept me. I lived between two worlds, belonging to neither. He put his hand on my shoulder. But you, little brother, you can still choose. You can run or you can stand and fight for what you love. After Morrison left, Eliza asked me quietly, That was your brother? I nodded. She sat beside me. Then you're not alone. I looked at her. For the first time in many days, I saw light in her eyes. Neither are you, I said. She took my hand. No words, just silence. And in that silence, something changed. Not forgiveness yet, not love yet, but acceptance. We were both wounded, and those wounds were beginning to heal. 1 week passed in quiet routine. We worked together, clearing snow, feeding the animals, mending tools. Our communication grew beyond single words into simple sentences, then into actual conversation. I taught her how to string a bow. She taught me to read simple words from her books. One evening she asked, What does Kiona mean? Brown hills, I answered. She laughed softly. That's not very romantic. I smiled despite myself. Apache names aren't about romance. They're about what your mother sees when you're born. What did she see? Brown hills at sunset. She said it meant I would be strong but gentle, like earth. Eliza looked at me, her eyes bright. She was right. But peace never lasts in a world built on division. One morning, Sheriff Kane returned. This time he brought 3 other men. Mrs. Hartwell, we need to talk. Eliza stood in the doorway. About what? About the Apache you're hiding. A younger man stepped forward, anger in his eyes. Virgil Brennan. My father was killed by Apache. You think we're just going to let one of them live here like nothing happened? Eliza's voice remained steady. He's hurt. He's no threat. Virgil laughed bitterly. No threat? They all are threats. Kane raised his hand for silence. Eliza, I understand you're lonely, but this isn't the way. I stepped outside, facing Kane directly. I will leave, I said in English. No need for trouble, Virgil snarled. Damn right you'll leave. In a coffin. Eliza moved in front of me, her hunting rifle in her hands. He's under my protection. This is my land. You want him? You go through me first. Kane looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. There's another way. He turned to me. You Apache. You understand marriage? I nodded, confused. Kane continued. If Mrs. Hartwell marries you, legally, on paper, Then you become her family. The law protects family. Virgil exploded. You can't be serious. Kane's voice was firm. I'm dead serious. It's either this or I let them hunt him down. Your choice, Mrs. Hartwell. After the others left in angry protest, Kane stayed behind. He spoke quietly. I'm not doing this just for you. He pulled out an old photograph, a young Apache woman, beautiful, standing beside a mixed-race girl. My daughter, Lily. She was taken by Apache when she was 8. I searched for years. I found her when she was 23. She was married to an Apache warrior, had 3 children. Happy. He wiped his eyes. She looked at me and said, I don't know you, white man. My father is Chief Naiche. I lost her, not to Apache, but to my own hate. I spent years blaming them when I should have been trying to understand. He looked at me directly. So yes, I'm giving you this chance, because maybe someone else's love can survive where mine didn't. They brought the minister. They brought the papers. They brought witnesses. No flowers, no rings, just ink and pen. The minister read the vows quickly, like reading a death certificate. When it was my turn, I said, I do. Eliza said, I do. But we did not look at each other. This was not a wedding. This was a contract of survival. The clerk asked for my full name. Thomas what? Morrison, standing in the corner, answered. Thomas Windrider. I looked at my brother. He nodded slightly. It was a new name, a name to live by. When it was done, Kane said, Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Windrider. You're now protected by law. But in Virgil's eyes I saw the truth. The law would not protect us forever. That night, after everyone left, Eliza and I sat at the table. The marriage certificate lay between us. Neither of us spoke for 15 minutes. Finally, she said, I didn't want it this way. I know. But I don't regret it. I looked up at her. She continued, because if I didn't, they would kill you. And I've had enough death. I took her hand across the table. Thank you for choosing life. For the first time, she truly smiled. Maybe we both needed that choice. 2 weeks passed. The town did not accept us, but they did not attack either. Eliza and I began living as husband and wife, though not sharing a bed. We ate together, worked together, spoke more freely. I taught her to shoot the bow. She taught me to read full sentences. One evening she asked, Do you have someone waiting for you back with your people? No, my people think I'm dead. It's better that way. Why? Because I deserve to be. She touched my face gently. You deserve to live, Kiona, more than you know. I wanted to believe her, but on a cold night when the wind howled through the pines, I smelled smoke. Not from our fireplace, from outside. Eliza, fire! We ran out. The horse barn was burning, and around us stood 4 men, faces covered with cloth. Virgil stepped forward, removing his mask. You thought a piece of paper could save you, Indian? I pushed Eliza toward the house. Get inside. She did not move. She raised her hunting rifle. Leave, now, Virgil laughed. You gonna shoot me, widow, for an Apache? The gunshot was deafening. Eliza had fired, missing Virgil but hitting one of his men in the leg. Next one won't miss, she said, her voice ice. Virgil's face twisted in rage. You'll pay for this. They retreated, but before leaving, Virgil threw a torch at our cabin. The fire caught fast, spreading like a living thing. I ran inside, pulling Eliza out, but a burning beam fell, striking my back. I collapsed. Eliza turned, dragging me away from the flames. We lay in the snow, watching the cabin burn. Eliza was crying. Everything. It's all gone. I held her hand. We're alive. That's enough. But then a gunshot rang out from the trees. Virgil had not left. The bullet flew past us, striking Eliza in the shoulder. She screamed, falling into the snow. Eliza! This was the moment. The moment I held her, shouting, Don't you dare leave me! Blood spreading, snow falling, the world ending in silence. Then Morrison appeared, gun drawn. He fired, hitting Virgil's hand. The rifle fell. It's over, Brennan, Morrison said. Sheriff Kane arrived with 2 deputies. Kane looked at Virgil coldly. You just committed arson and attempted murder. "You're under arrest," Virgil shouted. "He's Apache. He doesn't belong here." Kane's voice was steel. "He's a citizen, married, legal. You are the criminal now," said Dr. Ambrose Kelly came reluctantly. "I don't treat Indians," he began. Eliza, though wounded, spoke clearly. "You will, or I'll tell everyone you sold laudanum to the Apaches during the war for profit." The doctor went pale. "How did you know?" "My late husband's journal. He was sheriff. He knew everything." Kelly's hands shook. "Fine." He worked quickly. The bullet had gone through Eliza's shoulder, missing bone. For 3 days I sat beside her bed, holding her hand, not sleeping. On the 4th day she opened her eyes. She smiled weakly. "You stayed. Where else would I go? Away, to save yourself. I tried that once. It didn't work." She laughed, then cried, "I thought I lost you too." I kissed her forehead gently, the first time I had done so. "I'm not going anywhere. Not without you." When she was strong enough to sit up, Morrison came with a map. "There's a place called Willow Creek, 2 days south. It's a settlement. Mixed people. Apache, white, Mexican, freed slaves. They live together in peace. I have a friend there. He'll help you start over." Eliza looked at me. "Do you want to go? Do you?" She looked at the burned ruins of her home. "There's nothing left here, except memories." She turned to me. "But wherever you are, that's home now." Before we left, Kane came to say goodbye. He gave me a sealed letter. "For my daughter. If you ever meet Apache near the border, ask for Sky Lily. That's her Apache name. Tell her I'm sorry, and I love her." I took the letter, nodding. "I will." Kane smiled sadly. "Take care of each other. You two are proof that maybe there's hope for the rest of us." We left on a cold morning, the sun just beginning to rise. Snow still fell, but lighter now, almost gentle. On the road, Eliza asked, "What will we do there?" "I can carve, make things to sell. And I can teach," she said. "Reading. To children." I looked at her. "Our children?" She blushed, but smiled. "Maybe." We rode in silence, but it was not the silence of strangers. It was the silence of two people who had found each other in the darkest winter and chosen, against all reason, to live. The snow fell behind us, covering our tracks, erasing the past. Ahead, the road stretched into mountains still white with winter, but beyond them, spring waited, and for the first time in my life, I was not running from death. I was riding toward tomorrow. 2 days of travel changed us in ways words could not capture. The first night, we made camp in a shallow cave, sheltered from the wind. Eliza's shoulder still pained her, though she tried to hide it. I saw the way she winced when adjusting the blanket, the tightness around her eyes. I built the fire carefully, the way my father taught me. Small kindling first, then larger branches arranged to let air flow. The flames grew steady and strong. Eliza watched me work. "You do that like it's a ceremony." "It is," I said. "Fire is life. It deserves respect." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Tell me about your people, your real people, not the stories white men tell." I sat across from her, the fire between us casting shadows on the cave walls. "We are Chiricahua, the people of the mountains. Before the soldiers came, we moved with the seasons. Spring in the high country where the deer were fat, summer near the rivers, winter in the warm valleys. My father was a hunter. My mother made baskets so beautiful that other tribes would trade horses for them. I had 2 brothers and a sister." My voice caught. Eliza noticed, but said nothing. "Hastian, you met him. He was the oldest. Then came my sister Desba. She was killed when the soldiers burned our village 5 years ago. She was trying to save the children." Eliza reached across the fire, touching my hand briefly. "The youngest brother, Tarak, I don't know. He left after Desba died. Some say he went to Mexico. Some say he died in the desert. I never found him." "And your parents?" "My father died fighting. My mother died of sadness 2 winters later. She stopped eating. Just sat by the fire and sang the old songs until her voice faded, and then she was gone." The fire crackled. Wind moaned outside the cave. "I'm sorry," Eliza said softly. "Don't be. Your people have losses too. Samuel showed me that. She stiffened at her son's name, but did not pull away. Do you think, she began carefully, that he would understand what we're doing? I considered this. Samuel saved my life by forgiving me in his diary. Even though he didn't know what would come after, yes, I think he would understand. Eliza's eyes glistened in the firelight. I hope so, because sometimes I feel like I'm betraying him by not hating you, by choosing this. You're not betraying him, you're honoring him. He saw me as an angel, remember? Not because of what I was, but because of what I tried to do. He saw the choice I made to save him, not the mistake I made that hurt him. That's a very kind way to see it. It's the only way I can live with it. We sat in silence until the fire burned low. Then we slept, back to back for warmth, the past between us, but no longer crushing us. The second day brought us into different country. The pines thinned. The land opened into rolling hills covered in brown grass, sleeping under snow. In the distance, mountains rose like teeth against the pale sky. Eliza rode beside me now, instead of behind. Her shoulder was healing, the movement returning. Tell me about Willow Creek, she said. What Morrison said about it. Do you think it's real? A place where people like us can actually live? I don't know, but I've learned that hoping is better than dying. She smiled at that. When did you become a philosopher? When I met a woman crazy enough to save the man who shot her son. She laughed, a real laugh, bright and unexpected. The sound startled a pair of ravens from a dead tree. They flew up, black against white, cawing their complaints. Those birds, Eliza said, what do your people say about ravens? That they carry messages between the living and the dead. When you see two together, it means someone is trying to tell you something. What are they telling us? I watched the ravens circle once, then fly south, the same direction we traveled. That we're going the right way. We reached Willow Creek at dusk on the third day. The settlement sat in a narrow valley where a creek ran swift and clear, not yet frozen despite the winter cold. Smoke rose from perhaps 20 cabins scattered along both sides of the water. Gardens lay dormant under snow, but I could see the careful planning in their layout. This was a place built to last. As we rode closer, people emerged, not with guns, but with curiosity. A tall man with dark skin and long black hair approached. He wore white man's clothes, but moved with the grace of someone who knew the land. You must be Thomas and Eliza, he said, his voice deep and warm. Marcus sent word. I'm Ezra Whitehorse. Welcome to Willow Creek. I dismounted, then helped Eliza down. Her legs were stiff from 3 days of riding. Ezra's eyes took us in quickly, missing nothing. The bandage on Eliza's shoulder, the healing wound on my side, the way we stood close but careful, like two animals not yet sure they were safe. You've had trouble, he said. It was not a question. Yes, I answered. Then you've come to the right place. Trouble is what brings most people here. He gestured toward a small cabin at the edge of the settlement. That one's empty. It's yours if you want it. Nothing fancy, but the roof doesn't leak and the fireplace draws clean. Eliza looked at me. I nodded. We'll take it, she said. Thank you. Ezra smiled. Don't thank me yet. Living here isn't easy. We have rules. Everyone works, everyone shares, and everyone leaves their old hatreds at the border. Can you do that? Yes, I said. Ezra studied me for a long moment. Then he switched to Apache, his accent perfect. Even if the people who killed your sister walk past you every day, I answered in the same language. My sister would want me to live, not to hate. I can do this. Ezra nodded, satisfied. Good, because 2 of our families are former cavalry. They've killed Apache. And they live next to 3 Apache families who've killed white soldiers. Here we start over. Clean. Understood? Understood. He switched back to English for Eliza's benefit. Come on, I'll show you around before dark. Willow Creek was unlike any place I had seen. In the central area, a large fire pit sat surrounded by log benches. Children played nearby, their skin ranging from pale to dark, their languages mixing Apache, English, Spanish, and others I did not recognize. A woman with Mexican features was teaching a small Apache girl how to weave. Two white men were helping a black family repair their cabin roof. An elderly Apache man sat with a young white boy, carving wood together. "How long has this place existed?" Eliza asked. 5 years, Ezra answered. "Started with just 3 families. Mine, a freed slave family from Texas, and a Mexican couple fleeing persecution. We built it on the idea that survival matters more than skin color." He pointed to a larger building. "That's our school. We teach reading, writing, mathematics, and farming. We also teach 4 languages because we believe understanding each other's words helps us understand each other's hearts." "Who teaches?" Eliza asked, and I heard hope in her voice. "Whoever has knowledge to share. Right now, we have 2 teachers. An Apache woman who speaks 5 languages and a former soldier who taught at West Point before he got tired of war. Could always use another." Eliza looked at me, her eyes bright. I squeezed her hand. Ezra continued the tour. "Gardens are communal. Everyone plants, everyone harvests, everyone eats. We hunt together, defend together, and bury our dead together. Disputes are settled by council, 3 people chosen by lot. No single person rules here." "What about the outside?" I asked. "The army? The reservation agents?" "We're too small to bother with and too mixed to categorize. The army can't decide if we're hostile Indians or law-abiding citizens, so they leave us alone. For now." He stopped walking, turning to face us directly. "I won't lie to you. This life is hard. We're building something new, which means we're making up the rules as we go. There are arguments, disagreements. Sometimes people leave because they can't let go of the past. But for those who stay, who truly commit, this place becomes family. Real family, the kind you choose." The cabin Ezra gave us was simple but solid. 1 room with a stone fireplace, a rough table, and 2 chairs, a bed frame that needed a mattress, and a small loft for storage. "I know it's not much," Ezra said. "It's perfect," Eliza said quietly, and I knew she meant it. This was the first place that was truly ours, built on choice instead of obligation. After Ezra left, we stood in the empty cabin, uncertain. "I'll sleep in the loft," I said. Eliza looked at me strangely. "We're married, Thomas, on paper and in law. People here will expect us to share a bed." "I won't force that on you." "You're not forcing anything. I'm choosing. Just like I chose to save you. Just like I chose to marry you. I'm choosing this too." She stepped closer. "I'm not ready for everything. But I'm ready to stop pretending we're strangers tied together by circumstance. We're more than that now." I nodded, unable to speak. That night, we lay in the bed we built together from borrowed blankets and straw. We did not touch except where our shoulders met, but it was enough. In the darkness, Eliza whispered, "Thank you for not leaving me behind. Thank you for not letting me die in the snow. We're even then. No, I'll always owe you more." She was quiet for a moment, then, "Stop keeping score, Thomas. We're building something new. That means we start from zero, both of us." I thought about that until sleep came. The next morning, Willow Creek woke us with noise and life. Children shouted, animals called. People talked and laughed and argued. It was chaotic and messy and more alive than anywhere I had been in years. Ezra brought us breakfast, a simple meal of cornmeal mush and dried berries. "Council meets today," he said. "You should come. Introduce yourselves properly. Let people ask their questions." "What kind of questions?" Eliza asked. "The kind that matter. Who you were, what you did, why you're here. We don't hide from the past in Willow Creek. We face it, name it, and then decide together if we can move forward." My stomach tightened. "And if they decide we can't? Then you leave. But that's only happened twice in 5 years. We're pretty good at seeing who's sincere and who's running from consequences." The council met in the schoolhouse at midday. Perhaps 40 people gathered, sitting on benches or standing along the walls. Every shade of skin, every age from infants to elders, all watching us with eyes that had seen too much to be easily fooled. Ezra stood in the center. This is Thomas Windrider and his wife Eliza. They've come seeking refuge and a new start. As is our custom, they'll tell their story. Then we'll decide together." He gestured to us. "The floor is yours." I stepped forward, Eliza beside me. My mouth was dry. "My name is Kiona," I began, using my real name. "In English, Thomas, I am Chiricahua Apache. 3 months ago, I was part of a raid on an army supply wagon. We went for revenge because soldiers burned our village and killed 23 people, including children." The room was silent. People leaned forward. "During the raid, I shot a boy. I thought he was a soldier in the darkness. When I realized my mistake, I tried to save him. I bandaged him and hid him in the wagon so he wouldn't be killed by my people or the soldiers." I paused, forcing myself to continue. "His name was Samuel Hartwell. He died 3 days later from infection. He was 12 years old." Gasps, murmurs. Several people looked at Eliza in shock. "Samuel was my son," Eliza said, her voice steady. "When Thomas tells you he shot my boy, he's telling the truth. When he tells you he tried to save him, that's also truth." She took a breath. "I found Thomas dying in the snow near my home. I didn't know who he was. I saved him because I was tired of death. While he healed, I discovered the truth. And I chose to protect him anyway, because my son wrote in his diary that an Indian saved him, that he thought this man was an angel. Samuel saw something in Thomas that I needed to see too, not the mistake, but the choice to make it right." An older white man stood up, his face weathered by sun and time. "You expect us to believe you forgave the man who killed your boy?" "No," Eliza said. "I expect you to understand that forgiveness isn't a feeling. It's a decision. I decided that Samuel's death wouldn't create more death, that's all." A younger Apache woman raised her hand. She spoke in our language. "Do you still grieve for your people? Do you still hate those who killed them?" I answered in Apache, then repeated it in English for everyone. "I grieve every day. But I'm learning that grief doesn't have to become a weapon. It can become a seed instead, something that grows into something better." An old Apache man, his hair white as snow, stood slowly. "I fought in the wars. I killed many soldiers. Some were boys younger than me, just following orders. I see those faces every night before I sleep." He looked at me directly. "Can you live with your ghosts? Or will they eat you alive?" "I don't know," I answered honestly, "but I'm willing to try. Because the alternative is becoming a ghost myself." The old man nodded and sat down. The questions continued for an hour, some gentle, some harsh. People wanted to know our skills, our intentions, our willingness to work and contribute. Eliza told them she could teach reading and writing. I told them I could hunt, track, carve wood, and work leather. Finally, Ezra called for the decision. "All who welcome Thomas and Eliza into Willow Creek, stand." My heart pounded as people rose. One by one they stood, the old Apache warrior, the Mexican woman, the freed slaves, the former soldiers. Not everyone, but enough, more than enough. "It's decided," Ezra said. "Welcome home." After the council, people approached us individually. A middle-aged white man with a scarred face introduced himself. "Name's Robert Chen, used to be cavalry, killed more Apache than I can count. Did it because I thought it was right." He extended his hand. "I was wrong. Took me 10 years and a Sioux wife to figure that out. If I can start over, so can you." I shook his hand, feeling the strength in it. A young Apache couple came next. The woman spoke. "I'm Little Dove. This is my husband, Two Rivers. We lost our son to white settlers 3 years ago. He was 10. She looked at Eliza. "I understand your pain, and I understand your choice. If you ever need to talk to someone who knows, I'm here." Eliza's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." By evening, we had met dozens of people, each with their own story of loss, survival, and the decision to try something different. That night, lying in our cabin, Eliza said, "I think we're going to be all right here." "Yes," I agreed. "I think we are." She rolled toward me, close enough that I could feel her breath. "Thomas, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of being happy, of forgetting Samuel, of moving on and leaving him behind." I touched her face gently. You'll never forget him. He's part of you. But that doesn't mean you can't have joy again. He would want you to have joy. How do you know? Because he called me an angel when I was anything but. He chose to see good when he could have seen only bad. That kind of heart doesn't want the people he loves to suffer forever. She kissed me then, soft and tentative, a question and an answer at once. When she pulled back, she whispered, I'm ready to try. To really try. Not just surviving, but living. Me too. We fell asleep holding each other, and for the first time in months, I did not dream of death. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm. Mornings, I joined the hunting parties. Ezra taught me their methods, which combined Apache tracking with techniques from other tribes and cultures. We hunted deer, rabbit, turkey. Whatever the land offered, we took with gratitude and used completely. Afternoons, Eliza taught at the school. She started with just 3 students, but within a week had 12. Children loved her patient manner, her clear way of explaining things. I would sometimes watch from the doorway, seeing her transformed. This was who she was meant to be, I realized, not locked in grief, but sharing knowledge, building futures. Evenings, we worked on our cabin. We built proper furniture, shelves for Eliza's books, hooks for tools and clothes. We made it a home. One evening, as we worked together to hang a new door, Eliza said, I've been thinking about something. What? Names. If we ever have children, I want to give them names that honor both sides, Apache and English, your people and mine. My hands stilled on the door. You think about that, children, don't you? I didn't think I had the right to. She turned to face me. You have the right to hope, Thomas. We both do. I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, wood smoke, and soap. Then, yes, I think about it. More than I should, probably. There's no should. There's only what we want, and I want a future, with you. But peace, I had learned, was always fragile. 2 months after we arrived, during the first warm days of early spring, strangers came to Willow Creek. 3 men on horses, wearing badges. Not army, but territorial marshals. Ezra met them at the edge of town. I stood with the other men watching, ready. The lead marshal was a thick man with cold eyes. We're looking for an escaped Apache. Goes by Keona Whitefeather. Wanted for murder and assault. My blood went cold. Ezra's face showed nothing. Don't know that name. What's he look like? Apache. 30-some years old. Has a scar on his left shoulder from a knife wound. Tattoos on his forearms. Traditional markings. The marshal's eyes scanned the crowd and landed on me. Like him, maybe. I stepped forward before Ezra could stop me. My name is Thomas Windrider. I'm married. I live here legally. Papers? In my cabin. I'll get them. I'll come with you. We walked through the settlement, the marshal's eyes taking in everything. The mixed families, the shared gardens, the children playing together. Hell of a place you got here, he said, though his tone made it unclear if he approved. At the cabin, Eliza met us at the door. She saw the badge and understood immediately. What's this about? She demanded. Just checking identification, ma'am. Your husband's papers, please. I retrieved the marriage certificate and the statement Sheriff Kane had written, declaring me a legal resident under Eliza's sponsorship. The marshal read them slowly, his lips moving slightly. Finally, he folded them and handed them back. These seem in order. Thomas Windrider, you said? Yes. And you've never heard of Keona Whitefeather? That was my name before I married. I took a new name to start a new life, as is my right. The marshal studied me. The warrant says Keona Whitefeather killed a white boy during a raid, shot him with an arrow. Eliza stepped between us. That boy was my son, and this man tried to save him. I have Samuel's diary. He wrote about it. Would you like to read it? The marshal's certainty wavered. Your son, my son. And I've forgiven the accident because it was an accident. Samuel survived the arrow wound. He died 3 days later from infection because I waited too long to get proper medical help. The guilt is mine, not my husband's. Ma'am, the law doesn't care about forgiveness. then the law is wrong. The standoff lasted a long moment. Finally, the marshal said, "I'm going to report that I found a man named Thomas Windrider, legally married, living peacefully. I'm going to say Kiona Whitefeather must have died somewhere in the territories. I'm going to close this case." He leaned closer. "But if I ever hear that name again, if any trouble comes from this settlement, I'll be back. And I won't be alone. Understood?" "Understood," I said. The marshals left an hour later. That night the community gathered around the fire pit. Ezra spoke to everyone. "Today we were tested. Thomas's past came looking for him. We could have turned him over. It would have been easier, safer." He paused, looking around the circle. "But we didn't, because we've all got pasts. We've all done things we regret. The question isn't what we did before, it's who we choose to be now." The old Apache warrior stood. "I say Thomas has earned his place here. He works hard. He shares what he catches. He helps his neighbors. That's all that matters." Others agreed, voices rising in support. But one man, a former soldier named Garrett, shook his head. "I lost friends to Apache raids. How do I know he won't turn on us?" I stood up. "You don't. Just like I don't know you won't turn on me. We're all taking a risk by being here, but I'd rather risk trust than guarantee loneliness." Garrett studied me for a long time. Then slowly he nodded. "Fair enough." As spring deepened into summer, Willow Creek transformed. Gardens exploded with growth. Children grew taller and louder. New families arrived, drawn by rumors of a place where the past didn't define you. Eliza's school expanded. She now taught 20 students ranging from age 5 to 60. An old Mexican man wanted to learn to read so he could write letters to his daughter in California. Eliza taught him with the same patience she showed the children. I started a workshop, carving tools and toys and decorative items. Other craftsmen joined me. We pooled our skills, teaching each other. One afternoon, Morrison arrived. He rode in alone, looking older than when I'd last seen him. We embraced as brothers. "I've been checking on you," he admitted, "making sure those marshals didn't come back. I called in some favors, got the warrant officially withdrawn. You're clear. Thank you, Hestian." He smiled at the use of his real name. "It's good to hear our language again. I've missed it." "Stay," I urged. "Live here. Bring your son. Be part of this." He shook his head sadly. "My son is grown now, married to a white woman. He doesn't know about his Apache blood. I kept it from him to protect him. Now it's too late to tell him without destroying his life." "It's never too late for truth." "Maybe." He looked around at the settlement. "But this place, what you're building here, it gives me hope. If not for me, then for others. Keep going, little brother. You're creating something important." He stayed 3 days, telling stories around the fire at night, teaching the children Apache games, helping repair a barn that had been damaged in a storm. When he left, he gave me a bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside was our mother's best basket, the one she'd made before the war, decorated with patterns that told our family's history. "She would want you to have this," he said, "for when you have children, so they know where they came from." I couldn't speak. I just held the basket and nodded. By midsummer, Eliza told me she was pregnant. We were in the garden, pulling weeds in the early evening cool. She stopped suddenly, her hand going to her stomach. "Thomas." Something in her voice made me drop my tools immediately. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right." She took my hand and placed it on her belly. "There's a baby. Our baby." The world stopped, then started again, brighter and more alive. "Are you sure?" "I've been through this before. I know the signs. We're going to have a child." I pulled her into my arms, feeling her heart beat against mine, feeling the impossible miracle of life beginning between us. That night I carved the first of many small birds, a tradition I would continue for our child and someday our grandchildren. But summer also brought challenges. A drought struck in late July. The creek ran lower than anyone had seen. Gardens began to wither. Tempers grew short. Disputes arose over water rights. Who got to irrigate when? How much was fair? The council met weekly, sometimes daily, trying to balance needs. Then Robert Chen, the former cavalry officer, came to me with an idea. In my Army days, we learned irrigation techniques from the pueblos. If we dig channels properly, we can share the water more efficiently. But it's hard work. We'll need everyone. Then we asked everyone. We did, and everyone came. For 2 weeks, the entire settlement worked together. Men, women, and children dug channels, laid stones, and built a system that could bring water to every garden equally. We worked Apache next to whites, next to Mexicans, next to freed slaves. We worked with our hands in the dirt, our backs bent, our muscles screaming, and it worked. When the rain finally came in August, the channels distributed it perfectly. Every garden received its share. Nothing was wasted. The night we finished, we celebrated with a feast. Eliza stood beside me, her belly just beginning to show, watching the community dance and sing and give thanks. "This is what Samuel would have wanted," she said quietly. "Not monuments or revenge, just people trying to be better than their worst moments." "We're writing a new story," I said. "Yes, and it's a good one." In September, as the leaves began to turn, Sky Lily arrived. Sheriff Kane's daughter came riding into Willow Creek on a paint horse, her Apache husband and 3 mixed-race children with her. She found me working in the shop and spoke in perfect Apache. "Are you the one called Kiona?" "I am." She handed me a worn envelope. "My father died 3 months ago. Before he passed, he told me about you. He asked me to deliver this personally." I opened the letter with shaking hands. "Thomas," it read in Kane's careful script. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. I wanted to tell you that what you and Eliza built mattered to me. It gave me hope in my final days. I never stopped loving my daughter, even when she chose a different life. She never stopped being my child, even when I couldn't accept it. You helped me understand that love doesn't require sameness. It only requires choice. Thank you for that gift. And please, take care of Sky Lily if she ever needs it. She's the best thing I ever did." Gregory Kane. I looked up at Sky Lily, seeing Kane's eyes in her face, but also seeing the strength of 2 worlds combined. "Your father was a good man," I said. "He tried to be. That's all any of us can do." She and her family stayed a week. Her children played with the other kids, language barriers melting away in the universal tongue of play. When they left, Willow Creek felt bigger somehow, more connected to the wider world. As autumn deepened, Eliza's pregnancy advanced. She grew rounder and more radiant. We talked often about names. "If it's a boy, I want to name him Samuel," she said, "but with an Apache name too." "Naichi," I suggested. "It means mischief maker. Samuel was always getting into things, according to his diary." She laughed. "Samuel Naiche Windrider. I like it." "And if it's a girl?" "Desba," I said immediately, "for my sister. And maybe Grace, after my mother. Desba Grace Windrider." Eliza tested the name. "It's beautiful." On a cold November evening, as the first serious snow fell, Little Dove came to our cabin. "It's time," she said simply. The birth lasted through the night. I sat outside with 2 Rivers and Ezra, listening to the sounds from within, feeling helpless and terrified. 2 Rivers put his hand on my shoulder. "The waiting is the hardest part, but women are stronger than we know." Just before dawn, a baby's cry cut through the winter air. Little Dove opened the door, smiling. "Come meet your daughter." I entered the cabin on shaking legs. Eliza lay in bed, exhausted but glowing, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in soft cloth. "Thomas," she whispered, "meet Desba Grace." I knelt beside the bed, looking at the smallest person I had ever seen. She had Eliza's nose, my dark hair, and eyes that seemed to see everything. "She's perfect," I breathed. "She's ours," Eliza corrected. "That's what makes her perfect." I touched my daughter's tiny hand. She gripped my finger with surprising strength. In that moment, I understood something profound. I had thought I was building a new life to escape the old one, but I was wrong. I was building a new life to give my daughter a world better than the one I knew, a world where she wouldn't have to choose between her mother's people and her father's, where she could simply be Desba Grace Windrider, child of hope. Outside, the snow continued falling, covering the settlement in white silence. But inside our cabin, there was warmth and light and the sound of new life breathing. The past had brought us here through blood and snow and sorrow, but the future, I realized, looking at my wife and daughter, would be written in different words, words like love and hope and home. Winter came hard that year. By December, snow reached the cabin windowsills. The creek froze solid for the first time in Willow Creek's history. We burned through firewood faster than we could cut it, and game became scarce as animals burrowed deep to wait out the cold. But inside our cabin, we had warmth beyond what any fire could give. Desba Grace was 2 months old, and she had transformed everything. Her cries woke us in the night. Yes, but they also reminded us we were alive. Her tiny fingers, reaching for our faces, pulled us into the present moment with a force nothing else could match. Eliza sat by the fire nursing our daughter while I carved a new bird, this one with wings spread in full flight. "That's the biggest one yet," she observed. "It's for Desba. When she's old enough, I'll tell her it represents her parents. 2 people who learned to fly after they thought they'd never leave the ground." Eliza smiled, but there was something distant in her eyes. "What's troubling you?" I asked. She was quiet for a long moment, adjusting Desba in her arms. "I keep thinking about Samuel, wondering what he'd think of his little sister, whether he'd be angry that I moved on, that I found happiness again." I set down the carving and moved to sit beside her. "You haven't moved on from Samuel. You've moved forward with him. There's a difference. Is there? Yes, moving on means leaving behind. Moving forward means carrying with you. You talk about Samuel to Desba, even though she can't understand yet. You've put his picture on our wall. You named our daughter partly after him. That's not forgetting. That's honoring." A tear slid down Eliza's cheek. "I just wish he could have met her. Met you, really. Not in those terrible circumstances, but in peace." "He did meet me in peace," I reminded her gently. "In his last conscious moments, he saw someone trying to save him. He called me an angel. That was a meeting in peace, Eliza. It was just too brief." She leaned her head against my shoulder. "You always know what to say." "No, I just know what I needed someone to say to me when I was drowning in guilt. I'm only returning the favor." Desba finished nursing and made a small sound of contentment. Eliza lifted her to burp, and our daughter's dark eyes found mine, solemn and knowing in the way babies sometimes are. "Hello, little one," I whispered in Apache. "You have your mother's strength and your father's stubbornness. The world won't know what to do with you." Outside, the wind howled, but here we were safe, or so I thought. The trouble came on a January morning when the sky was the color of old iron. A rider arrived in Willow Creek, his horse half dead from hard travel. He collapsed as he dismounted, and several of us carried him to the communal hall. Ezra brought water and blankets. The man was young, maybe 20, with the look of someone who'd seen too much too fast. When he could speak, his words chilled us all. "Soldiers," he gasped, "coming from Fort Benson. A whole company. They're rounding up any Apache they find, taking them to the reservation in Arizona. No exceptions." My blood turned to ice. The old Apache warrior, whose name was Gray Wolf, leaned forward. "How far out?" 3 days, maybe 4. They're moving slow because of the snow, but they're coming, and they've got orders to shoot anyone who resists." Murmurs of fear rippled through the gathered crowd. Ezra raised his hand for silence. "Why are you telling us this?" The young man looked ashamed. "Because I was with them. I'm a scout, was a scout, but when I heard them talking about burning settlements that harbor fugitives, I couldn't do it anymore. I ran." "You deserted?" Robert Chen asked. "Yes, sir. I deserted. Court-martial offense. They'll hang me if they catch me, but I couldn't be part of more killing, not after everything I've seen." I respected him for that choice, even as I understood what it meant for us. Ezra called an emergency council that afternoon. Every adult in Willow Creek crowded into the schoolhouse. Babies cried. Children sensed the tension and grew quiet. Fear lived in every face. "We have choices," Ezra began. "We can scatter, each family trying to survive on their own. We can stay and fight, though we're outnumbered and outgunned. Or we can negotiate." "Negotiate what?" demanded a Mexican woman named Rosa. "They're not coming to talk. They're coming to take our people." Gray Wolf stood slowly, his old bones creaking. "I will not go to a reservation. I lived free. I will die free. Any Apache who wishes to fight, I will lead you." Several younger Apache men stood with him, but Little Dove stood too, holding her youngest child. "And what happens to our children when you're dead? Who protects them?" "We protect them by showing them how to stand up," Gray Wolf replied. "Better to die with honor than live in shame." "There's no honor in orphaning children," Eliza said, her voice cutting through the rising argument. "I've lost one son. I won't watch other mothers lose theirs, because pride matters more than survival." I stood beside my wife. "There's another option. Some of us leave, draw the soldiers away. The rest stay, claim to be a peaceful settlement with no knowledge of fugitive Apache." "You mean you leave?" Ezra said, understanding immediately. "The soldiers are looking for Apache specifically. If the Apache families leave, the rest might be spared." "That's not fair," Robert Chen protested. "We're all in this together." "Fair doesn't matter when soldiers are coming," I said. "What matters is keeping the most people safe." Gray Wolf shook his head. "You would run? After all we've built here?" "I would run to save it," I corrected. "If my leaving means Willow Creek survives, then I leave gladly. This place is bigger than any one person." The debate raged for hours. Finally, Ezra called for a vote. "All who support Thomas's plan that Apache families leave temporarily to draw the soldiers away, raise your hand." The vote was close, but it passed. That night, in our cabin, Eliza was silent as stone. "Say what you're thinking," I urged. "I'm thinking this is wrong. I'm thinking we didn't survive everything we survived just to be separated now." "We won't be separated. You're coming with me." She looked up sharply. "What?" "You're my wife. Desba is my daughter. We're a family. We stay together." "Thomas, if I go, people will know I'm helping you hide. That makes me a criminal too." "I don't care." "You should care." Her voice rose. "You should care that I can stay here safely with our daughter while you do what you need to do." "No. No. No." I knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "I lost everyone I ever loved to this war. My mother, my father, my sister. I watched them die or disappear one by one. I won't lose you too. Even if staying together means more danger, I'd rather face danger with you than safety alone." Tears streamed down her face. "You're a stubborn man, Thomas Windrider." "I learned from a stubborn woman." She pulled me into a fierce embrace. "Then we go together. All three of us." The Apache families prepared to leave at dawn, Gray Wolf and his wife, 2 Rivers and Little Dove with their 3 children. 3 other families, including an elderly couple who could barely walk. 15 people total, plus Eliza, Desba, and me. Ezra pulled me aside as we loaded supplies onto horses. "Where will you go?" "South, into the mountains. There are caves my people used to use for winter shelter. If we can reach them before the soldiers catch us, we can wait out the winter. By spring, maybe the army will have moved on. And if they don't, then we keep moving, Mexico maybe, or deeper into the wilderness." He gripped my shoulder. "You're the best of us, Thomas, you know that?" "No, I'm just a man trying to keep his family safe, same as everyone." "That's what makes you the best." Morrison arrived just before dawn, riding hard. "I heard," he said breathlessly. "I came as fast as I could." "Brother, you shouldn't be here. If they find you helping us, let them find me." His voice was steel. "I've lived between 2 worlds for 20 years, belonging to neither. For once, I'm choosing a side. I'm choosing family." He dismounted and began helping load supplies. "I know these mountains. I know places even the Army Scouts don't. I can get you there safely." Gray Wolf approached Morrison warily. "You are the one who left the tribe." "Yes." Why come back now? Morrison met his eyes. Because I was wrong to leave. I thought I could escape who I was, but you can't escape yourself. You can only decide what to do with who you are. I'm Apache. It's time I acted like it. Gray Wolf studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Welcome back, Hastin. We left as the sun touched the eastern hills. 18 people, including a 2-month-old baby, fleeing into winter mountains to escape soldiers who would kill us or imprison us for the crime of being born Apache. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent months trying to die, and now I was fighting desperately to live. The first 2 days were brutal. We pushed hard, knowing the soldiers were behind us. The snow was deep, the cold merciless. Little Dove's youngest child developed a fever. The elderly couple struggled to keep pace. Morrison scouted ahead and behind, watching for signs of pursuit. On the evening of the second day, he returned with grim news. They're following our trail, maybe a day behind now, and they've got Indian scouts with them who know how to read sign. Can we go faster? I asked. Not without leaving people behind. That was not an option. Gray Wolf proposed a different plan. Some of us make a false trail, lead them away from the main group, give you time to reach the caves. That's suicide, I said. No, it's tactics. 3 or 4 warriors can lead them in circles for days, then disappear. We know this land better than they do. 2 Rivers stepped forward. I'll go. No, Little Dove said immediately. You have children. That's why I'm going. To make sure they have a future. The argument was brief but fierce. In the end, 2 Rivers, Gray Wolf, and Morrison volunteered. I should go too, I said. You have an infant, Morrison countered. Desba needs her father. The others need you to guide them to safety. This is our part. Let us do it. Eliza grabbed my arm. Thomas, please, they're right. Everything in me screamed to fight beside my brother and my friends. But Desba made a small sound in her sleep, and I knew they were right. Be safe, I told Morrison. Come back to us. Always, little brother. They left at midnight, taking 3 horses and making deliberate noise to ensure the soldiers would follow their trail instead of ours. We waited until we could no longer hear them, then continued south in silence. The remaining journey took 3 more days. We moved carefully now, covering our tracks when possible, avoiding open ground. The elderly couple grew weaker. Little Dove's child's fever broke, thank the spirits, but she remained fragile. Eliza was a rock. Despite carrying Desba in a wrap against her chest, she helped others, encouraged the children, and never once complained about the cold or exhaustion. On the 5th day since leaving Willow Creek, we reached the caves. They were exactly as I remembered from childhood stories. Deep, sheltered from wind, with a narrow entrance that could be defended if necessary. A small stream ran nearby, not yet frozen. We made camp quickly, building fires deep in the caves where the smoke would disperse before exiting, making us harder to spot. That night, huddled around the fire, Little Dove asked me, "What now?" Now we wait. Give Morrison and the others time to lead the soldiers far away. Then we decide our next move. Do you think they'll be all right? I wanted to lie, to give her comfort. But she deserved truth. I don't know, they're skilled and smart. But so are the soldiers. All we can do is have faith. Faith. She said the word like it tasted bitter. I used to have faith. Before they took my first son. Before they burned our village. What has faith ever given us except more pain? Eliza spoke up from across the fire. Faith didn't fail you. People did. Faith is just the decision to hope when hope seems impossible. The people who hurt you, they lost their faith. They let fear turn them into monsters. Don't let their failure steal your faith too. Little Dove was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "How do you do it? How do you have faith after losing your son?" Because I met Thomas. Because we made Desba. Because even in the darkest winter, spring always comes eventually. That's not faith in people. It's faith in the turning of the world, and the world always turns. 2 weeks passed in the caves. We rationed food carefully, hunted when we could, though game was scarce. The children grew restless, confined to the cave, but they understood the danger of going outside. Desba grew despite the hardship. She was strong, alert, curious about everything. Watching her explore the world with wide eyes reminded me why we fought to survive. Then, on the 15th day, Morrison returned. He was alone. My heart sank as he dismounted, covered in snow and dried blood. "Hastian," I rushed to him. "Where are the others?" "Safe. We split up 3 days ago. Grey Wolf went east, 2 rivers west. I came here. We led the soldiers in circles until they were exhausted and lost. Last I saw, they were heading back north to Fort Benson." "You're hurt." He waved it off. "Grazed by a bullet. Nothing serious. But Thomas, we need to talk." We stepped away from the others. Morrison's face was grave. "The soldier leading them, Captain Hendricks, he's not going to give up. He has orders directly from Washington. They want every Apache on the reservation, no exceptions." He told his men that Willow Creek is on his list. He plans to return in spring with more men and burn it to the ground if they're still harboring fugitives. My blood ran cold. We can't let that happen. No, we can't. Which means we need a different plan. Over the next hour, Morrison laid out what he'd learned. Captain Hendricks was a career soldier, ambitious and cruel. But he was also pragmatic. He cared more about results than methods. "If we could give him a victory," Morrison said carefully, "something he could report back to Washington, he might leave Willow Creek alone." "What kind of victory? Me?" I stared at him. "Absolutely not. Listen, I'm a deserter. There's already a warrant for me. If I turn myself in, claim I was the one leading the fugitives, Hendricks gets his arrest. His superiors will be satisfied. The pressure comes off everyone else. They'll hang you. Maybe. Or maybe they'll send me to prison. Either way, it buys time for the rest of you." "No." My voice was flat. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself. It's not your choice, little brother. It's mine." "Hastian, I've lived half a life for 20 years, Thomas. Always hiding, always pretending. Let me do one thing that matters, one thing that's truly mine." Before I could argue further, Eliza approached. She'd been listening. "There might be another way," she said quietly. We both turned to her. "What if," she began slowly, thinking it through as she spoke, "what if we don't give him Morrison? What if we give him a story instead?" "I don't understand," I said. "Captain Hendricks wants a victory to report. He wants to tell Washington he solved the Apache problem. But what if the problem solved itself? What if the fugitive Apache he was chasing simply vanished? No bodies, no arrests, just gone. Disappeared into Mexico or died in the mountains. Either way, problem solved." Morrison shook his head. He'd never believe it without proof. "Then we give him proof. We stage something, a campsite that looks like we froze to death. Graves that look real. Something convincing enough that he can report mission accomplished and move on." I felt a spark of hope. "It could work, if we're careful. It's risky," Morrison warned. "If he doesn't buy it, we're right back where we started." "But if he does," Eliza pressed, "everyone goes home. Willow Creek survives. You don't have to turn yourself in." We spent that night planning every detail. We would create a false camp 2 days north of our actual location. Make it look like we'd been caught in a blizzard and died. Bury bundles that could pass for bodies in shallow graves. Leave enough evidence to tell a story of tragedy. Morrison would watch from a distance, ensure the soldiers found it, then report back to us. It was a desperate plan, but desperation was all we had. 3 days later, everything was ready. We'd created the false camp with care. Torn tents, half buried in snow, a cold fire pit, items scattered as if dropped in panic, and 5 graves marked with crude stones. The bundles we buried were wrapped in clothing that carried our scent. With enough snow and decay, they'd pass for bodies at a distance. We hoped the soldiers wouldn't dig too deep in the frozen ground. Morrison took up position on a ridge overlooking the site. We waited. 2 days later, he returned. "They found it," he said, barely containing his excitement. I watched through my spyglass. Hendricks examined the camp, counted the graves, took some items as evidence. He looked satisfied. "Did they dig up the bodies?" I asked, my heart pounding. No, the ground was too frozen, and Hendricks seemed convinced by what he saw. He told his men to mark it on the map and move out. They're heading back to Fort Benson. "It worked," Eliza breathed. It actually worked. But Morrison's expression turned serious. "There's more. I got close enough to hear them talking. Hendricks is going to report that the fugitive Apache group died in the mountains. Case closed, but he's also recommending that all mixed settlements be monitored closely. Willow Creek will be watched." "Watched we can handle," I said. "Watched is better than burned." "There's still a problem," Morrison continued. "You can't go back. None of the Apache families can. If Hendricks thinks you're dead, and then you show up alive in Willow Creek, the whole story falls apart." The weight of that truth settled over us like fresh snow. Eliza spoke first. "Then we don't go back." "Eliza, think about it, Thomas. We were already planning to leave eventually. Desba needs a place where she can grow up without fear, where she doesn't have to hide who she is, where maybe our son Samuel or daughter Desba won't have to choose between their father's people and their mother's." But Willow Creek was that place. It was, and it can continue to be for others, but for us, it's time to move on. I looked at the other Apache families. They were nodding slowly, understanding. Gray Wolf, who had rejoined us the day before, said, "The old ways are dying. Our children need new ways. Maybe it's time we find them." Over the next week we made plans. Mexico was too dangerous, too many soldiers, and too many questions. Canada was possible, but far, and winter made the journey deadly. Then Morrison remembered something. "There's a valley in Colorado near the San Juan Mountains. It's isolated, fertile, and mostly unclaimed. A few families live there, trappers and miners who keep to themselves. It's not Willow Creek, but it could be a start." "How do you know about it?" I asked. "I hid there for 6 months after leaving the tribe. Before I became Morrison. It's beautiful country, and the people there don't ask questions about the past. It wasn't perfect, but it was possible. We sent word to Willow Creek through a trusted messenger, told them we were safe but couldn't return, asked them to continue the work we'd started. Ezra sent back a letter that made Eliza cry. "Thomas and Eliza," it read. "Willow Creek will always be your home. Even if you can't be here in body, we'll keep a place for you. And we'll teach the children about the family who helped build this place. The Windriders who proved that love could cross any boundary. Be safe. Be happy. And know you're remembered." We left for Colorado in early March as the first signs of spring began to show. 18 people, including one 4-month-old baby, heading toward an uncertain future. But this time, we weren't running from something. We were walking toward something. That made all the difference. The journey took 3 weeks. The mountains were still heavy with snow, but the days were getting longer and the sun stronger. We saw the first wildflowers poking through the snow, tiny explosions of purple and yellow against the white. Desba seemed to sense the change. She smiled more, made more sounds, reached for everything. Watching her discover the world helped us rediscover hope. We reached the valley on a day so clear the sky looked painted. Morrison had not lied. It was beautiful. A wide valley nestled between peaks still white with snow. A river ran through the center, swift and clear. Pine forests climbed the slopes. And there, scattered along the valley floor, were a handful of cabins. We approached carefully, not knowing what welcome we'd find. An old trapper met us, his beard reaching his chest, his eyes shrewd and measuring. "You folks look like you've come a long way," he said. "We have," I answered. "We're looking for a place to settle, somewhere we can live in peace." He looked over our group, seeing the mix of Apache and white, the children, the elderly, the determination in every face. "Peace is relative in this country," he said finally. "But if you're willing to work and don't cause trouble, you can stay. Land's free if you're willing to claim it and defend it." "We can do both," Morrison said. The trapper nodded. "Then welcome to Paradise Valley. That's what we call it anyway. Whether it lives up to the name is up to you." We built our new home over the spring and summer. The work was hard, harder than anything we'd done in Willow Creek. We had to clear land, build cabins from scratch, plant crops, hunt, and prepare for the next winter. But we did it together. Gray Wolf and his wife claimed land near the river. 2 rivers and Little Dove built near them. Each family took a section of the valley close enough to help each other, far enough to have privacy. Morrison stayed with us through the summer, helping build our cabin, then announced he was returning to his son. "I'm going to tell him the truth," he said, "about who I am, who we are. He's a grown man. He deserves to know." "What if he rejects you?" I asked. "Then at least I'll have tried. I've spent 20 years being ashamed of my blood, no more. If my son can't accept me, that's his loss. But I won't hide anymore." He embraced me tightly. "You saved me, little brother. By refusing to hide, by building something real, you showed me it was possible. Thank you." "Come back when you can," I said, my voice thick. "You always have family here." I know. By autumn, Paradise Valley had become home. Our cabin was small but sturdy, with a loft for storage and a good fireplace. Eliza had started teaching again, this time in a small schoolhouse we built together. 6 children attended, including Little Dove's youngest, now fully recovered. I carved and hunted and worked the land. We had chickens and a milk cow, bought from the trappers, a garden that had produced enough vegetables to see us through winter. And Desba, now 8 months old, was crawling everywhere, getting into everything, laughing at the world. One evening in October, as we sat outside watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and red, Eliza said, "I'm pregnant again." I turned to her, joy flooding through me. "Are you sure?" "As sure as last time." I pulled her close, feeling the miracle of it. "When?" "Late spring, probably. April or May." "We should talk about names," she laughed. "We have time." "I was thinking," I said carefully, "if it's a boy, maybe Samuel Hastian. Honor both the brother he'll never meet and the uncle who saved us." Eliza's eyes filled with tears. "Samuel would like that, and Morrison would be honored. And if it's a girl?" "I've been thinking about that." "What about Rosa Desba, after my mother and your sister?" "Perfect." We sat in comfortable silence, watching Desba play in the grass, chasing a grasshopper with intense concentration. "Do you ever regret it?" Eliza asked quietly. "Leaving Willow Creek? Giving up that life?" I thought about it honestly. No, Willow Creek was important. It proved something could exist. But this, I gestured at the valley, the mountains, our home. This is ours. We're not just surviving someone else's vision. We're creating our own. "I think we're going to be happy here," she said. "I think we already are." That winter was gentler than the last. We had enough food stored. Our cabin was warm. The other families were close if we needed help. And the trappers, rough as they were, proved to be good neighbors. On a snowy evening in December, exactly 1 year after we'd fled Willow Creek, we gathered all the families for a celebration. Gray Wolf told the old stories in Apache. Little Dove taught the children traditional songs. We shared food and warmth and gratitude for making it through. Eliza stood and raised her cup. A year ago, we were running for our lives. Tonight, we're building our lives. To everyone here, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for believing there could be something better. Everyone drank to that. Then I stood, Desba in my arms. "I want to tell my daughter a story," I said, "so she knows where she came from." I looked down at Desba's curious face and began in Apache, then repeated it in English. "Once there was a warrior who thought his life was over. He'd made a terrible mistake and wanted to die in the snow. But a strong woman found him and refused to let him die. She saved him, even though he'd hurt her. She chose life when death would have been easier. The warrior and the woman fell in love, not because they forgot the past, but because they faced it together. They had a daughter, beautiful and strong, and they built a home where different peoples could live in peace. This is your story, Desba Grace. You are born from sorrow and joy, from Apache and white, from winter and spring. You are the proof that love is stronger than hate, that hope is stronger than fear. Never forget where you come from, but never let it define where you go. Desba reached up and touched my face, babbling happily. Everyone laughed. As the celebration continued, I stepped outside for air. The stars were brilliant, scattered across the sky like seeds. The mountains stood silent and eternal. Somewhere in those peaks, the wind carried stories of my people, of Eliza's people, of all the peoples who'd walked this land. I thought about Samuel, the boy whose death had brought me to life. I thought about my parents, my sister, all those lost to war and hate. I thought about Sheriff Kane, Morrison, Ezra, and all the others who'd helped us survive. Thank you, I whispered to the wind, for the pain that taught me, for the love that saved me, for the chance to build something new. The door opened behind me. Eliza emerged, wrapped in a blanket, and stood beside me. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Everything. Nothing. How we got here. Where we're going. And I'm grateful for all of it, even the hard parts. Because they led to this." She leaned against me. "No more running. No more running. We're home, Eliza. Really home." "Yes," she agreed. "We are." 5 years later, Paradise Valley had grown to 12 families. We had a real school, a trading post, and a reputation for being a place where people could start over. Desba was 5, smart and fearless, speaking both Apache and English fluently. Her brother Samuel was 4, quiet and thoughtful, always watching everything with serious eyes. And the baby, Rosa, was just learning to walk. Morrison had returned to stay. His son had accepted his Apache heritage and even came to visit once, bringing his own children to meet their grandfather. Gray Wolf had died peacefully in his sleep 2 winters past. We buried him on the hill overlooking the valley, his grave marked with stones arranged in the old way. Little Dove had remarried, a white trapper named Jack who learned Apache to court her. They had a new baby, a bridge between worlds, and Eliza and we grew older together. Gray touched her hair in mine. Lines marked our faces, but our love had deepened into something unshakable. One spring morning, we walked to the ridge above our cabin, the place where we went when we needed to think. "I got a letter from Willow Creek," Eliza said. "Ezra writes that they're thriving. 40 families now. They've named their school the Wind Rider Academy." I smiled at that. "We should visit someday, when the children are older. Maybe. Or maybe we should let it be. Let them remember us as we were, not as we are." "You think they'd be disappointed?" "No, I think they'd see we're just people. And sometimes people need their heroes to stay heroic, at least in memory." I laughed. "We're not heroes. We survived when we could have given up. We loved when we could have hated. We built when we could have destroyed. That's heroic enough." We stood watching the valley wake up, smoke from chimneys, children playing, the sound of hammers and saws as someone built something new. "Do you think we did it?" I asked. "What we set out to do." "What was that?" "Proved that people from different worlds could build something together, that the past doesn't have to poison the future." Eliza thought about it. "I think we proved it's possible. Not easy, not guaranteed, but possible. And possibility is enough to build on." Desba's voice called from below, "Papa, Mama, breakfast!" We turned to go back down, but Eliza stopped me. "Thomas." "Yes?" "If you could go back and change things, would you? If you could make it so you never shot Samuel, never had to run, never had to fight so hard for this life, would you?" I thought about my answer carefully. No, because changing one thing changes everything. If I hadn't shot Samuel, I would have died in that snow. You and I would never have met. Desba, Samuel, and Rosa wouldn't exist. All of this, I gestured at the valley, wouldn't exist. The price was high, I continued. Too high in some ways, but the price bought something real. And I won't dishonor that by wishing it away. She kissed me softly. Good answer. We walked down the hill together toward our children, toward breakfast, toward another ordinary, miraculous day. Behind us, the sun rose over the mountains, painting the snow golden. The carved birds I'd made over the years hung from the cabin eaves, turning slowly in the wind. Each one represented a moment, a choice, a step forward. Together, they told a story, not of a warrior and a widow, not of Apache and white, not of blood in the snow, but of two people who found each other in the darkest winter and chose against all reason and all odds to build a spring. Behind them, the valley woke to another day. Smoke rose, children laughed, life continued. The carved birds hung from the cabin eaves, each one a moment frozen in wood, each one a choice made, each one proof that love, when chosen daily, could outlast winter. Kiona looked at his wife, his children, his home. "No regrets?" Eliza asked softly. He thought of the blood in the snow, the boy who called him Angel, the long road from death to life. "Only one," he said, "that it took so much pain to find this much peace. Was it worth it?" He kissed her forehead, every single drop of blood in the snow. The end.